Hello. Oh, let me just turn my lights on. Here we go. The difference a couple of lights make. Okay, so I'm working on my sermon journal. So I started off a quick journal where I want to do some cutouts and do a few bits of it for speaker's notes for any meetings that I go to, or for church services, and these are the first 2 weeks. I started it off in a delusions journal, and I took that on a camp with me. And as much as I love this small delusions journal, there were some issues with it. So, first issue was delusions don't like watercolours all that much at all. They really don't like it. They absorb it. They have no surface disbursement treatment done like watercolour paper has and mixed media paper has, so that you can work with the watercolours at the time, you know, on the paper after applying them. Hence I get these sort of smudgy looks around the edge, which ended up looking fine, but they didn't work out the way, because I wanted to drag them across the pages and I couldn't drag them across the pages before I started writing. So I used a number of different things. So in these 4 pages I had a little travel kit. So I basically used Neocolor crayons. I used biro because I did not even take a black felt tip pen, so anything that you see done in black felt tip I've gone over. And I took a lead pencil, a little bit of glue, my watercolor palette, and a few like distress paint, you know, distress and Adirondack paints like that, just because they're easy to transport. With this particular thing, I got given a little box. I'll go and find that little box, because it was in my little it's a little, like a little ring box. I got given a little ring box, and in the ring box there was a little key charm, and it said in it, a key because you hold the key to my heart. And I thought that I would spend some pages journaling the little things that were in that box, as well as my notes. So there was my notes from the sessions, and then there was a puzzle piece, because without you I am not whole. And then I added in, and you helped me find missing pieces. And then I had painted and drawn a girl, and I had planned to do my notes along her hair, the strands in her hair. I got some of them in and some of them not, you know. But there was here, there was also a heart. So it says a heart just because I love you, because that was the text that was in the little box. And then here on the last 2 pages for that weekend, there was matches, because we are a perfect match, and a compass because I'd be lost without you. And there was little charms, like that's the actual matchstick that was in there, but there were little charms and stuff, and I didn't necessarily want to use the charms, but I decided that I would. I came home after that and used some markers to bring out some of the colour in here, and to do that kind of thing. I did it on here as well, use some markers, because the markers were more suited to these pages and I didn't take markers with me. So as you can see, I did cutouts of these pages, but I found that the delusions just wasn't doing it for me, and I thought, well, I'll do something else. So I had a couple of these small Strathmore mixed media journals, and I thought they'll take whatever I can dish up to it, so I decided that I would do that. So I'm working on this week's page. So this week's page, I did a little sketch for, like a prelim sketch, where I just sat down and sketched something before I started to work on a journal page, and, you know, do the proper sketch. So this one, I decided that this is a great place where if you do these little sketchy things, you can use them in these sorts of journals. I have a cutout here that I want to do something with. I'm going to leave this cutout like that, and I'm going to doodle along the edge so that there's a different color and a different definition showing here, and then I'll reset the cutouts and start them again here. So I think you know, it's good to kind of decide. I always have a look at decorating the majority of the journal, the edges and the borders, before I get into church, and then I just take with me a little pencil case of all different size black pens, you know, just rollerball gel pens and things, and I do my notes as the speaker is speaking and start doodling through things. And then when I get home, I haven't done these with a marker yet for all the different spots, so I should just pull a quick marker out now. I'm sure I've got something in here close by. Always good to use water soluble rather than Copics on this here. And I've used a waterproof marker, so I should be able to just get a water pen and just grade that marker through the sea. Cool. But it's always good to go back, and I just like to pick a few things out because I always have a look and see if there are sections that I can colour in. So I'm going to do the same here, and then I'm going to get the water pen out and just drag the colour out over the top of the doodle, and that starts to correspond in with the yellow here as well that you've got, and you're just adding in little bits and pieces. So we're not making a huge deal, just adding tidbits in. Cool. And I'm quite happy with that. Overall, I don't mind. I pre-coloured the background just like I'm doing here. One of the reasons is it stops pens bleeding, but it also allows you to shadow and define what you're doing before you start just with your plain markers for your notes. So I'm just going to get a Posca paint pen, and I like to add the curves differently to the way that they go, because that allows you to use extra definition, and I usually border them, and I'll do it generally with a thicker pen. So I'll get a marker, which is why I like having these extras, right? And so I want this girl to stay her lovely sketchy self. I don't intend to colour over her at all, but I am going to use a few graphite pencils that I can smudge with a stump. So I just need to get my smudging stump. So a couple of smudging stumps, just paper stumps. I have some earthy turn coloured graphites. They're Derwent. Make sure I have a sharpener nearby. And I have a HB, so I'll get that out. Now I'm going to go with the grey. And I have put a matte medium over this so she is completely sealed. So whatever I'm doing, if I choose to go down that path, when I'm just putting shadows and things in, that it will smudge, and if I really want to I can rub it off. So I'm just doing lighter strokes here now in a crisscrossy motion, just to get a little bit of grading going on from these lines that I did earlier. So I'll just pop that. So obviously the light's coming from here. Smudge that out before I add the extra lines, and then just hold my pencil not as hard, not press not as hard, and just do a cross stitch motion. And get my pencil to go lighter and lighter. So I have that grade of tone all the way down, and then I'm going to run my finger. So I've got a little bit of texture, but some nice smudging going on there as well. And I love the fact here that I'm going over the top and those lines don't smudge that I've already drawn in. And I'm really quite happy with her. I kind of want to leave her like that and not. I'm just going to add a little bit of, I've got a General's, no, Stabilo's better. Stabilo pencil. And although I graded it, I just kind of want to add, and this time I'm not actually going to activate the Stabilo, I'm just going to let it add into the graphite. Yeah. And I think I want to do that on the edge of this as well. So I'm just going to go on the edge and I'll water activate this one. And I'm going to allow this border to have its own shadow. I've just used a little bit of Delusions inks, and then I just wipe them down with a baby wipe as this background. So not Delusions inks, not Delusions, what am I saying? Distress paints. So use some distress paints, and I literally just scrub them on, and then I got a baby wipe and just kind of textured it in and took some paint out and added some paint in. And I'm quite happy with that. So just going to activate it from the edge and leave the edge really sharp, and you hold your pen and let it bleed out. You add the water in and just let it bleed out, and I'll come back and strengthen that line. And the water won't go past where your pen, that's why you lay it flat. So I'm going to take that out now and add water in all the way down and just let it bleed where it may. And edge it out so I don't have any of those watercolour lines that you get. And then that's looking nice and smudgy. So I need to think about the border then for here, because remember that border is going to show through here. So I need to think about what I'm going to do down this side, and I'm thinking to myself I'm going to do something that starts out in the shadow and curls and curls and curls okay. So I'll just put that thick edge in that I like to give me something to work with. Okay, I'm going to let that black ink, that black paint pen, it's a Posca paint pen, I'm going to let that dry before I go any further. And then I'll come back and do a little bit more. Okay, so all the paint pen is very, very dry. And I've decided to accent it a little bit with some white pen. I need to get that pencil case that I took to church. Stockpiled some of my all different colours. And an aqua marker and a couple of different black markers and a blending stump. Ah, that's where the blending stump went. There we go. So I thought I would highlight the gradings of colour that you can see. I'll just zoom in so you can have a better look. So you can see how the colour's been graded by those tiny dots that I put in and just extended, dragged the pigment out. So now I think finally I'm going to add in some of that same cadmium orange, but I'm just going to do it in between here. Gives that a little bit of bits and pieces, and with the painted yellow as the background, and so we're starting to get something just that little bit different. So here I've got some pink, and it's more of a pinky kind of colour, so I'm going to look at using a magenta ink. And I'm going to actually apply it with the paint pen, and all I'm going to do is just dot a little bit in. This dries permanent, and I'm going to drag it out with water for the wash, and then I'm going to just dot it in and let it bleed like we did with the marker earlier. Because these are so big, we may even be able to just doodle a little bit on them. So what I'm thinking is I'll keep the pink theme, but I'm going to do it here in these, and kind of use it as a marker with the colours that are in there already. And wash out the nib. I've got a new orange ink here in Artist Spectrum, so I kind of think the way to make that pop using a Signo pen. Kind of think I've had some top and bottom borders in different places. I like to draw my lines in and have them connect right up. So that there's some continuity in the page. And I also will doodle in those lines while I'm in church. Now I'm going to leave space at the bottom here to do the border, and I kind of like the idea that it will come out of this spot here and just snake along the bottom till it reaches the girl and then end in there, and we'll see what I'll do with that. I haven't quite finished it. I'll be back. Okay, so I've got this bottom border that I'm looking at, and I'm kind of thinking that it would be cool to do something a little bit different.
Come again.
So after my husband rudely interrupted, after there's a no opening the door sign on my studio right now, I thought, oh, I'm going to put some white swirls in here. Just to add just that little bit of extra. I like that. I like the extra definition. So I'm thinking about this little border here and this little bit here. So, trusty Posca pen. I'm thinking I would like to incorporate the background. So what I'm thinking is I will just do some circles. Cool. And so what I find is, I'll work around that, and I will doodle extra lines and do extra because I have the one drawing in here, and in these pages I didn't really have drawings, I just had the borders. And because I have the drawing in here, you don't want to overthink the page all that much. I kind of like the way that looks. You've got the yellow and you've got different patterns showing, which is cool. And I haven't done the inside cover, and I should do that. It's just got scratch paint on it at the moment. So now all I want to do is dot this, and then I'm going to use my aqua pen and that, people, is my prep done for the next, it could be the next 2 weeks, I'm not sure. I envisaged that would be 1 week based on the previous one that I showed you, but what I find is that sermons are shorter than seminar talks, so I ended up getting 2 weeks out of that, which is sweet by me, because that means that I get to focus on that for 2 weeks rather than 1, and those seriously have to dry. 2 weeks rather than 1, and so it's half the work.